Hey, if you're looking for a dark comedy that's somehow more enraging than the actual real-life simulation, world that we live in, then you found what you were looking for in Adam McKay's latest film, Don't Look Up. The movie, which is available on Netflix, is a Clark Kent-level disguise for the climate crisis, according to McKay, who wrote the film before COVID, but, well, you know what? We're gonna get to that in just a moment. But first, hey, obvious spoiler warning for Don't Look Up. If you haven't seen the flick, go watch it on Netflix, stare at the wall contemplating your own existence for a few hours, then come back and check out 25 crazy, quirky, fun things you missed in Don't Look Up. Are we doomed? So, like I was saying, writer-director Adam McKay, known first in his career for comedies like Anchorman and Step Brothers, then more recently for darker comedies based on recent figures like former Vice President Dick Cheney or events like the 2008 financial crisis. You know, the fun stuff. He wrote the script for Don't Look Up before the COVID-19 pandemic, but if you've seen the film, you notice the jarring similarities with how the movie's society handled the asteroid crisis to how we are currently handling COVID right now. McKay even wondered if production should continue, telling Wired.com, "I wasn't sure if we should still make the movie," McKay says. The movie had just happened in our real lives constantly. The director even decided he had to make the movie more ridiculous to keep up with what was really happening in the world. Maybe that's the silver lining here, that movies and TV are gonna get so freaking crazy because real life is just bananas. Yeah, that's a fair trait. Anyway, back to the Fun Time movie video. Movie stars Meryl Streep and Jonah Hill had a little mix-up on set. Streep, who plays the movie's President Orleans to Hill's Jason Orleans, her son and White House Chief of Staff. Hill referred to Streep on set as the GOAT, meaning, of course, greatest of all time. An acronym made popular by the argument between the NBA's Michael Jordan and LeBron James, which isn't even an argument since everyone knows who the true GOAT is. The three-time Oscar winner rolled with it, but had no idea what it meant, thinking that Hill was calling her a literal goat, like the farm animal. She even thought, "Oh, I guess I look like a goat." Like, Meryl, no, you don't. It wasn't until co-star Jennifer Lawrence explained to Streep what the acronym means that she finally understood that Hill was paying her a very high compliment. Hey, do you want to hear why Adam McKay made this movie? Okay. In 2018, McKay had just read a report by the IPCC, or the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the United Nations body for assessing the science related to climate change. The report was, dark, predicting chaos across the globe when the planet surpasses an increase of 1.5 degrees, which we are likely to do in the early 2030s, according to an even more recent report. McKay was not doing well with this news, which is understandable, it's very scary, and was lamenting to journalist David Sirota, who shares a story credit on the film, about the lack of media coverage for the climate crisis. Sirota commented, "Well, it's like an asteroid is gonna devastate the planet and nobody cares, and we got a movie, baby." It is kind of like that, though. JLaw's look for the movie was created by costume designer Susan Matheson, who has worked on McKay films since 2006's Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. The wig has received most of the attention online, even though no one seems to care about whatever is going on with Leonardo DiCaprio's hair. But the aspect that caused the most on-set problems was Lawrence's nose ring, which was held on by a magnet on the inside of her nostril, and you guessed it, a few times she would inhale too forcefully and the magnet would get stuck up into her throat and through her nose, which makes me want to just, vomit just thinking about it. And during her press tour, JLaw would regale interviewers with the time she would hack up her nose magnet while making direct eye contact with Leonardo DiCaprio. Every girl's dream. What delightful repartee.
And seeing how Lawrence famously played the personification of Mother Earth in Darren Aronofsky's 2017 film Mother, it makes sense that Lawrence herself would take a few licks in a movie about an Earth-destroying asteroid. Does it make sense? Should I say that? The next minor injury that JLaw endured while on set was glass exploding into her eye. Minor. The injury took place during a scene where JLaw's Cate and Timothée Chalamet's Yule, that is his character's name by the way, Yule, it's festive, are tagging a building with spray paint before something of a riot breaks out, which necessitated a controlled glass explosion that wasn't quite controlled enough, and glass flew and cut Jennifer Lawrence's eyelid, which wouldn't stop bleeding and ultimately caused them to wrap shooting for the evening, but it's okay. They finished the movie and she's fine, so she's all good. I mean, not all good, because, climate change. There's no running from it. Delightful. Yeah, let's hold off on more adorable JLaw injury stories until later in the video to talk about this cast. The assembled group of actors in the film is just ridiculous, with what has gotta be one of the highest numbers of Academy Award acting noms and maybe wins from a combined cast ever, with 41 nominations and 8 wins between them. And that's just the acting Oscars. It doesn't take into account Emmys from the likes of Ron Perlman and Michael Chiklis, or the loads of awards garnered by Tyler Perry as a producer, or the many, many music awards that belong to Ariana Grande and Cate. It's a talented group. And while no one from the film seems to be set up for an acting Oscar nod in 2022, you never really can count out this crew. Not that Oscar nominations are about anything other than the actor's performance in a film. Wouldn't it be surprising if someone like Meryl Streep forgot how to act? Well, that's exactly what happened. Stay tuned after this ad. I'm just kidding, there's no ad, except for the subliminal stuff that we don't tell people about. No, that's exactly what happened according to the many time Oscar nominee during a scene where her character, US President Orleans, made a huge speech to a crowd. The film was shot during the pandemic and before vaccines were available, and the isolation during quarantine had a profound effect on the actors. Streep said during a roundtable with Entertainment Weekly, "I didn't feel funny in the lockdown. I hadn't spoken to anybody in like 3 weeks. I walked to the stadium in Worcester, put on the nails, put on the face, put on the suit, and I just lost it. I forgot how to act. I forgot what I was about. What am I? I am this thing made up of component parts." And it kind of dismantles your humanity to be isolated like that. And I think that might be the most relatable quote I've seen from a celebrity during the pandemic. But Streep cited Jonah Hill specifically as the member of the cast who saved the day, loosening up the set with tons of hilarious improv. The whole cast mentions Hill's improvisation skills as legendary, with several of the film's funniest lines being attributed to Jonah's ad-libbing prowess. And it's not just his ability to make up funny lines on the spot, but funny lines that fit with his character and further the plot. Hill had a very specific take on the president's son and chief of staff, Jason Orleans, saying that he was going for, quote, Fire Festival as a human being. And I think he nailed it. Fire Festival, as you might recall, was a much hyped yet failed 2017 music festival that promised luxury meals and accommodations only for festival goers to be met with meals like this and accommodations in FEMA emergency tents. So yeah, pretty much like Hill's character from the movie. Exactly. Several actors from the film found themselves in Hill's improvisational crosshairs, including Leonardo DiCaprio, who Hill himself said he enjoyed ribbing on set. The two actors even lived together during filming, which enhanced the experience of making fun of a famously suave dude, saying, "I did enjoy making fun of Leo because he didn't like playing a dork. I think he was really shook that I was in a position to make fun of him on screen for being a nerd, and I could see him come home and be like, you really got a lot of jokes off on me today," and I was like, this is awesome. And while Hill emphasized he did not enjoy making fun of Jennifer Lawrence as much as he did Leonardo DiCaprio, nevertheless, director Adam McKay chose to spend an entire day on Jonah Hill insulting JLaw, which Lawrence jokingly calls one of the greatest days of my life. I'm definitely confident enough in myself to be ripped to shreds for a whole day as well. I could take that. I'm not like a delicate glass bulb just waiting to fall off a desk and shatter into a million pieces or anything. I'm not that. While Lawrence's character, Cate DiBiase, makes a reference or two to toking up earlier in the film, earlier drafts had her character making several more references to getting high, so during filming, she and director Adam McKay looked for opportunities for Lawrence to really be high to give the character that glassy-eyed look that I guess people have when they get high in movies. And Lawrence did get high one day on set when she didn't have any lines, but McKay almost derailed that plan, saying he thought all day about asking Lawrence to perform an improvised monologue. Thankfully for JLaw, McKay resisted the temptation. McKay is known for the long leash he gives actors on its sets when it comes to improvisation, and not just well-known ad-libbers like Jonah Hill. After praising the Superbad actor's chops, most of the cast are quick to mention the improvisational talent of Meryl Streep, who obviously has a ton of acting experience, but apparently no formal improv training. McKay even mentioned that Streep performed 2 straight days of completely improvised phone calls, complete with totally different responses and subject matter. And that's super hard to do and requires a very lovely and active imagination like Meryl. Meryl, she does everything well. Most of the improv fun seemed to have happened during the Oval Office sequences where Hill, Streep, DiCaprio, Lawrence, and others got to have fun together, but editor and frequent McKay collaborator Hank Corwin couldn't just assemble the funniest version of the film, as he was dancing a delicate tonal balance, with the film being a comedy until that emotional ending, where the whole planet is annihilated by climate change. By the asteroid. The asteroid is gonna kill us. Corwin even told Hollywood Reporter that he had to pull the comedy back while editing the scene, saying, if you make something too funny, or if one character is too weighty, then maybe half an hour down the line the film won't feel truthful. You have to go back and ascertain what the tone is, where there's comedy, but also where there's great poignancy. and tragedy. One moment that definitely wasn't a moment of tragedy was when Jennifer Lawrence got to meet Ariana Grande on the set. JLaw with Grande, who plays pop star Riley Bina in the film, got to meet while shooting a scene in the green room of the fake morning show from the film, The Daily Rip. Lawrence said that she was so excited to meet Grande that she got a picture and said she must have looked like a radio contest winner, which is just great. Stars, right? They're just like us. Wouldn't you also look like that if you met Ariana Grande? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Would tell the truth. While creating the character of Meryl Streep's President Orleans, Adam McKay touched on most of the presidents from the recent past. The director said, I took a little bit from each, so you have the kind of performative empty suit of Reagan, you have the used car salesman of Bill Clinton, you have the dangerously underqualified George W. Bush, and then you have Barack Obama, awfully smooth and cozy with big money, and then of course Trump's run-amok narcissism. So, hey, good news, George H.W. Bush. You're in the clear. Adam McKay does not hate you enough to make you part of his fake president. Possible he forgot about you. Rest in peace. Speaking of America, our own Captain America, Chris Evans makes a cameo in the film as the star of a disaster flick set to come out on the day of the asteroid's impact, which is very funny. But Evans, according to this one trivia entry on IMDb, was originally slated to play the part of Bash CEO Peter Isherwell, which of course was eventually played by Oscar winner and Titan of Shakespeare, Mark Rylance. Seriously, there's some clips online of Mark Rylance as Richard II, which is really cool. Rylance's character, as I mentioned, is the CEO of Bash Industries, which is meant to lampoon the place tech companies like Apple and Facebook. Meta. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna call it that for sure. Tend to take in a crisis. That is, making as much money as they possibly can. Anyway, JLaw told Vanity Fair that the Bash phones that the characters used were actual, real, working, futuristic phones, which is super fun. So fun to have all the characters hooked into the technology that ultimately spells the end of their planet. Super fun and not at all like our current situation. Oh, look. All the bells and stuff, it's so nice. It makes my brain feel good. Timothée Chalamet makes a fun appearance in the film as Jennifer Lawrence's end-of-the-world love interest named Yule, of course, which is, again, seasonal and fun. And Chalamet sports much longer hair than we're accustomed to in the film. Originally, the actor wasn't gonna have long hair, but after shooting was pushed from April 2020 to November 2020 due to, you guessed it, COVID. Chalamet got on a video call with Adam McKay, and McKay loved the look and asked him to keep the long locks for filming. Hey, look at that COVID silver lining. At least we got Tim Chalamet's long hair from it. Jennifer Lawrence is heavily on the record as having a tough time during the car scene with her, Timmy C, and Leo DiCaprio, telling Stephen Colbert that, quote, it was the most annoying day of my life. They drove me crazy that day. The star said that Chalamet and DiCaprio were just like super jazzed to be out of the house after isolating for so long during the COVID lockdown, and perhaps came on a little strong in that little car. The song that Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Dr. Randall Mindy, describes in that scene in that car was actually a song that Leo chose himself to explain to Lawrence on the fly. Unfortunately for him, in multiple press stops, JLaw said she didn't remember what the song was or what the lyrics meant. Keep munching on these JLaw tidbits like your Pac-Man and the ghost chasing you or the rising seas. Lawrence actually lost a veneer while filming and wasn't able to see a dentist until after the film wraps. So for much of the film, Lawrence boasts a CGI veneer, which is a lot more expensive than the regular ones, I think. I clearly have no idea. Oh, burn! The film's science advisor was Dr. Amy Manzier, a professor of planetary science and lead scientist on NASA's asteroid hunting mission, NEOWISE. The mission is very much what we saw at the beginning of the film, scientists using a super powerful telescope to hunt for asteroids that could cause damage to our planet. Dr. Manzier says that we found most of the so-called planet killers, and we should be good there for the time being. The smaller but still regionally catastrophic ones, though, a lot of those are unaccounted for, which makes me feel... I'm not sure, to be honest. Not sure. I want it. Though Dr. Manzier, unlike many of the critics who reviewed the film, does not actually think the ending is dour. As she told Tech Radar, from my perspective, the film is saying, the future is up to us. We do have the power to choose the better outcome. We can make science-based decisions that will help us avoid the worst outcomes and select the best ones. So to me, the movie is actually very hopeful. We have the power to change things. Ooh, a scientist being optimistic. That really soothes the existential burn, doesn't it? doesn't it? And if Don't Look Up has somehow got you more worried about the fictional danger than the real danger, NASA is currently conducting a mission called the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART. Gosh, they love an acronym, don't they? The agency is attempting to use a spacecraft to disrupt an asteroid's trajectory, like we've seen in several asteroid disaster movies. Unfortunately, no oil drillers are on board, so it's obvious that they had no idea what they are doing. The last time a notable space rock entered our atmosphere was 2013, when a rock about 20 meters wide exploded above a city in Russia. No one was killed, but about 1,500 were injured. Most because when they saw a flash and went to look out the window, the shock wave, traveling at the speed of sound, so like slightly slower than the speed of light, arrived later and shattered the windows, injuring people with the flying glass. Sounds a lot to me like Jennifer Lawrence's injury. I'm not sure what that means, but I repeated a thing at the beginning at the end. Storytelling has nothing to do with the movie, but it's just like